Britain's date with destiny is Keir Starmer about to make history. After a marathon climb to rebuild Labour since voters roundly rejected them last time, he's about to face the test of his life.
Imagine a Britain moving forward together with a Labour government. That is what we're fighting for. Let's continue that fight. If you want change, you have to vote for it. Vote Labour tomorrow.
Rishi Sunak's last push involved a date on the This Morning sofa. In the last rally tonight, he was joined by his parents and wife cheering him on.
I can tell you, it is not over until the final whistle blows, my friends.
The latest polls suggest Labour could be on the brink of a record-breaking majority. This time tomorrow night, we should get a steer after 6 long and sometimes unedifying weeks. We'll check in with all our correspondents on the campaign trail as the clock runs down. Also tonight, the global security briefing awaiting the new PM. Ex-MI6 chief tells Rohit we have a decade to face down Russia.
I think we've got 10 years. If we don't do it in 10 years, I think we're going to put essentially our kids in a position of extraordinary vulnerability.
No one's pushing me out, swears Joe Biden, but rumours mount that the president is about to exit the race for the White House. Raducanu breezes into the singles third round and also gets a dream come true, partnering Andy Murray in mixed doubles. And if apathy and anger were a party, would they be cleaning up? Paul's been talking to voters about to decide where to put their cross.
I'd probably vote Conservative still.
Oh, wow.
It's the first person I've heard say that in weeks. We're all so angry. We're like, stuff you all.
This is ITV News at 10 with Julie Etchingham.
Good evening. At the end of 6 weeks, the polls say it. Even a Conservative minister says it. Labour could be on the cusp of a record-breaking parliamentary majority. But Labour's leader, Sir Keir Starmer, was not leaving anything to chance today. On the final day of campaigning, he visited Wales, Scotland and England as he tried to secure a place in government, in Downing Street and in history for himself and his party. The Prime Minister campaigned in 2 Hampshire constituencies and managed to sandwich in an appearance on ITV. He countered the claim of his minister, Mel Stride, saying he was still fighting hard for every vote. More on Mr Sunak in a moment. First, though, the final stop on Sir Keir Starmer's election campaign that even he must now dare to think will take him to Downing Street.
At the start of this election, Labour mocked Rishi Sunak for not having an umbrella, so they made sure they had plenty in Carmarthenshire for the start of Keir Starmer's final dash round Britain.
Let's go out, let's do it. Thank you all so much.
He accused the Tories of trying to suppress Labour's vote with predictions of a Labour landslide.
Cabinet ministers are practically conceding defeat. Do you believe them?
No, we are fighting for every vote, and across the country there will be constituencies which will go down to the wire.
You admit there are many undecided voters. Your candidates tell me there are many undecided voters. Has your message been too cautious?
No, it's been realistic, but I know that we need to convince people that change is possible.
You're standing on the threshold of something big, whatever it is, something very big for you personally. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very pleased and confident. I want to now get on with the opportunity to roll up my sleeves and bring about the change which I think the country deserves.
For all the excitement here, there are still some last-minute Labour nerves about voters who are unconvinced, unengaged or undecided. And down the road in Carmarthen, it didn't take long to find them.
What do you think of him?
I'm still undecided. I'm swaying to Conservative.
Do you know who that is?
I voted for him. I did a postal vote.
You've already done it?
Yeah.
Starmer, is it?
That's Starmer, Keir Starmer, yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
What do you think of him?
Useless.
Sorry, we don't know who he is.
No. Don't recognise him. Have you heard of Keir Starmer?
No. Sorry, no.
Keir Starmer flew to Glasgow this afternoon. They know who he is here and they know what they're going to do tomorrow.
What are you going to do tomorrow?
This evening, Keir Starmer returned from Scotland to the West Midlands with one final endorsement under his belt. The Sun newspaper said it was backing Labour. And at one last rally in one last Tory-held seat, Redditch, he delighted his activists with this.
Imagine a Britain moving forward together with a Labour government. That is what we're fighting for. Let's continue that fight. If you want change, you have to vote for it. Vote Labour tomorrow.
This time tomorrow night, he'll start to find out if we did. Carl Dinner News at 10, Redditch.
Well, the sense that the Conservatives are heading for defeat was heightened by the woman Mr Sunak appointed and then sacked as Home Secretary. Suella Braverman said the writing was on the wall. It's over, she said in a newspaper article. We need to prepare for opposition. Mr Sunak had other ideas at his final rally tonight. This underdog will fight to the final whistle, he said.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
What could be Rishi Sunak's last day in the most powerful job in the country started on ITV's This Morning, appearing after Britain's most tattooed mum, with one last mildly surprising thing to reveal.
Well, my favourite meal generally is sandwiches, so that is my favourite. I'm a big sandwich person.
For a man on a last gasp push for survival, he didn't travel far, from London to a school in Hampshire, where the discussion wasn't about policy or voting either.
I love pepperoni, that's my favourite pizza.
With the polls not shifting for the Conservatives, the recriminations have begun early. Suella Braverman saying it's over and they must prepare for opposition. And one cabinet minister not just admitting likely defeat, but one like this.
There is a distinct possibility here of a landslide that's the largest that there's ever been in British electoral history.
Suella Braverman has said you need to prepare for opposition. Are you the only person left who thinks you still have a chance?
No, every vote matters tomorrow. Just 130,000 people could change the outcome of this election. That's what the latest analysis shows. So if people want lower taxes, they want their pensions protected, and they want to prevent a Labour supermajority, there's only one thing to do tomorrow, and that's to vote Conservative.
It has been a campaign few Tories will want to remember, from the moment the Prime Minister announced it in the rain to the long-lasting damage of leaving D-Day commemorations early and having to suspend these two candidates for allegedly betting on the election date. But the Tories are clinging to the hope that many have not yet made up their minds, and we did find some were still undecided on the streets near the school.
Just don't know which way I'm going to go. Probably not Tory.
Are you going to get into the polling booth and decide in there?
I will. I think it will be pressure on the spot, most likely.
I've always voted Conservative, but I'll be voting Reform.
Right. And there's nothing that Rishi Sunak said during the campaign that changed your mind?
No. Same old, same old.
The Prime Minister visiting only 2 seats today and at the schools spending more time with those not yet old enough to vote, while outside there are more Liberal Democrat campaigners than Conservatives. It feels like a campaign ending on more of a whimper than a bang. Some residents in Southampton were surprised by the Prime Minister himself turning up on their doorstep this afternoon. But the final event of the Prime Minister's eventful campaign had more of a valedictory than celebratory feel, with thanks to his watching parents.
I'm not just grateful to our country for everything it's done for me, I'm enormously grateful to my parents too.
And hugs for his wife. The bold action signs packed up for the last time. Waving goodbye, he jogged off, heading to his own constituency and whatever future the voters have for him tomorrow. Romilly Weeks, News at 10, Hampshire.
The SNP leader John Swinney has gone further than before in saying that a vote for any other party undermines the case for independence. And in Scotland, at least, a Labour victory is not a done deal. Peter is in Glasgow. A very different feel to the election in Scotland. What's your take as the polls prepare to open, Peter?
Oh, Suella Braverman might say it's game over. Not so in Scotland. Everything here is still to play for. To give some indication about how close this is going to be, about a quarter of the seats are regarded by the pollsters as simply too close to call, well within the margin of error. Some polls put Labour in a majority in Scotland. Some have the SNP winning by just a couple of seats. But that poll today putting the SNP in front, give John Swinney the energy he needed in one final day of campaigning. We can see him pushing for every single vote he can to try and get SNP over the line to stay as Scotland's biggest party. Remember, something else that's different here is that the SNP have put independence on the ballot paper. He says if they win, they will be pushing for another independence referendum. Today, for the first time, he conceded in an interview with me that if they don't win this election, it could put the independence cause in jeopardy.
If somebody believes in independence and they vote for any other party other than the SNP, then they're running the risk that independence is damaged as a cause, as a consequence, because every Labour MP that's elected in Scotland will use that as a means of attacking independence.
Now, this is clear now. The terms, according to the SNP, if they win a majority, then they'll be pushing for another referendum. The next Prime Minister doesn't have to give them it, but it certainly creates a problem for the next Prime Minister and the next government. But the SNP, by their own admission, say if they don't win, if they lose, then the independence cause would be damaged. Then it would become much easier for the next Prime Minister to ignore their continuing calls for another independence referendum.
OK, Peter, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, there was a colourful finale to the Lib Dems campaign stunts of daring do. They were a little more sedate today, suitably yellow tractors and a pink Cadillac, as Sir Ed Davey brought his electioneering full circle back to social care.
After a campaign involving bikes, boats and bungee jumps, today the Liberal Democrats leader stuck to his big yellow bus. His feet stayed firmly on solid ground in territory he hopes will soon be Lib Dem. The excitement was clearly too much for some. This was the last in a string of stunts that were all part of a strategy designed to get people's attention.
Do you think voters have got confidence in you?
Well, we're getting a lot of really good responses on the doorstep. People across the home counties in the West Country, in rural Britain, from mid Wales to Scotland, are saying they're going to vote Liberal Democrat.
What would be a good result for you tomorrow night?
We're not putting a ceiling on our ambitions. We clearly want to at least be the third party in Parliament. We can overtake the SNP in number of MPs, so our voice will be heard even more loudly. Here we go.
But have the Lib Dems been heard on policy or just seen for their stunts? And have they done enough in constituencies like Chippenham to drive through the Tory blue wall?
Not everyone's been on board with how Ed Davey has carried out his campaign, but he's actually told us himself that he thinks doing these stunts has given him more opportunity to talk about policy during this campaign than he's ever had before.
Come on, my sweetheart.
One of those policies also has a deeply personal meaning for the Lib Dem leader. Ed Davey has spoken candidly about caring for his 16-year-old son, John, who lives with severe disabilities, and the battles he and his wife have faced to get him the support he needs.
Could not be more passionate and determined to sort out caring in this country.
Those serious messages have sometimes sat awkwardly alongside the silly stunts. They'll soon find out whether any of it has cut through. Chloe Keedy, News at 10.
The Reform UK leader Nigel Farage was campaigning this evening in Essex. He led chants of "We want our country back," and he got the loudest cheers for his comments on immigration. Harry joins us now from Essex. How confident are they really of winning seats then, Harry?
Well, we've been following the Reform campaign around for the last 6 weeks, and I think it's fair to say as this campaign's gone on, Nigel Farage has become increasingly confident about his party's chances of winning a handful of seats, despite the fact in the past few weeks they've had to defend controversial comments, apologise for controversial comments made by some Reform candidates. Today, Nigel Farage was at a boxing club saying his party is well within the fight in tomorrow's election. He wants to reshape the right of British politics over the next 5 years. And he said today for that to happen, his party does need to get some MPs elected tomorrow.
It's very tough to call what's going to happen. The thing we can't measure, and the polls can't measure, is the youth vote. You know, are all these people online, the millions of them who've been very supportive, are they actually going to go and vote? I don't know. Success looks like many, many millions of votes. That's pretty much guaranteed, I think, and a bridgehead in Parliament.
The Reform campaign's been a bit quieter this week. We haven't seen any big nationwide campaigning. Instead, candidates have been in a select few constituencies, knocking on doors, trying to persuade voters to come out so the party can actually get some MPs elected tomorrow.
OK, Harry, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, the Green Party wound up its election campaign saying it had brought hope to voters. Their co-leader, Carla Denyer, said it had broken through the conspiracy of silence from the other parties around the need to invest in our NHS and public services, and voters had responded. And the Plaid Cymru leader, Rhian ap Iorwerth, made 4 constituency stops today in seats they hope to win tomorrow in some wet Welsh weather. He said his party has every ground to be confident. And Robert joins us now from his Eve of Election Peston programme. We're nearly there, Robert. I mean, sort of where do we start? We've gone from that rainy launch in Downing Street through the scandals, the D-Day, the betting scandal, arguments over tax. Just give us your take on what we've experienced in the last 6 weeks and how you feel about it.
Well, look, something we discuss on the show, which is after the news, is how for many voters, and actually for people to do my job, it's been a very frustrating election battle because the priorities of voters dealing with poverty, the cost of living, social care for the elderly and infirm, protecting the security of the nations. When it comes to the 2 big parties, there's been precious little detailed, some would say precious little intelligent debate about all of that. What we have seen is this extraordinary scandal of Tory candidates and officials betting on the date of the election. We saw a Labour candidate betting on himself to lose. He was then suspended by Keir Starmer. We had that great controversy about the Prime Minister leaving D-Day celebrations early. If you look at the polls, you might argue nothing has changed. Labour was 20 points ahead before the election was launched. It is still 20 points ahead. But underneath all that, there has been a big shift. Nigel Farage's entry into the battle as leader of his party and a candidate in Clacton has seen Reform's share rise. It may have plateaued now and the 2 big parties' share fall. But if you look at every opinion poll, they all show Labour heading into the vote tomorrow with a decisive advantage. Most of the polls say that Labour is heading for what might be a historic victory. But I would remind everybody who's watching, until the final whistle is blown, the match isn't over.
OK, Robert, thank you very much indeed for that and for a step-by-step guide of how to vote, including what ID you need to head to the polling station whilst Robert leaps out of his chair there. Just head to our website, itv.com/news. All the details on what ID and how to vote are on there. And Robert will be here in our election studio tomorrow night for our election night programme. Indeed, the best guests and best analysis will be here on ITV1 and ITVX with Tom and Anushka.
When the voting's over and the exit poll is revealed, our unrivaled team of experts, including Nicola Sturgeon, George Osborne and Ed Balls, will break down what it means for you, the parties and the country.
And throughout the night, as results come in, we'll be going deep into the data to understand not just who's going to hold power, but how the new mix of MPs will shape the way the UK is run.
It could be one heck of a night. So please do join us for Election 2024, the results, live.
If Sir Keir Starmer is made Prime Minister in the next 36 hours, he will be briefed straight away on the country's security situation. One man who's lived with those threats on a daily, if not hourly basis, is the former head of MI6, Sir Alex Younger. Our global security editor, Rohit, sat down with Sir Alex, who started their conversation by outlining the shock any new Prime Minister faces of suddenly being in charge of the country's security.
I know that's been the case for his predecessors, where suddenly the gravity of what he has volunteered for hits when you think about the enormity. The first duty of a government is to defend the country, so he'll be confronted with the need to think about the instructions that he gives to our Royal Navy submarines carrying the deterrent. And he'll be given advice on what to put in that letter, but it is his responsibility and his alone. This stuff just comes at you. You have no influence over what it contains. You've just got to deal with it. And it's punishing. Less than a week after his appointment, if it is him, he will go to Washington for the 75th anniversary of the founding of NATO.
Our peoples do not want war and do not glorify war.
Where he will meet his future colleagues and be expected to show real knowledge of what's happening and where we want to see this conflict go.
At 4:35, we at ITV News are calling this as a Leave victory.
I'm profoundly depressed. Nobody mentions the UK. We've just made ourselves irrelevant, and this is extraordinary. You know, at the beginning part of this century, we were the dominant force. France has effectively eclipsed that, and you just don't hear a discussion of us. And I think Brexit has marginalised us.
What did you make of Nigel Farage's comments in relation to provocation of Putin and Ukraine?
Well, it's most surprising, but I half agree with him. We absolutely did provoke Russia. But the catch is that we provoke Russia not through our strength, but through our weakness. At every stage, Putin, from a position of some weakness, tried his luck, pushed the boundary, literally just stepped over the mark and waited to see what would happen. And guess what? We were fine with it. I think we've got 10 years. If we don't do it in 10 years, I think we're going to put essentially our kids in a position of extraordinary vulnerability for which they will not thank us.
10 years being the period also that Starmer has set for his decade of national renewal.
Good, so it's on him then.
Are you concerned about the potential impact of returning President Trump?
Yes, he did a good thing in bullying us into increasing spending, and that is well overdue and necessary. Europe needs to grow up in the security space. It's going to own the Ukraine problem at some stage. But my message to Donald Trump, I think if I was the next Prime Minister, would be that America is not being done over. It's a prime beneficiary of the international system that it's set up.
Would it have been wise for both of the main parties perhaps to have gone further on that matter specifically of the recognition of a Palestinian state?
This is a very emotive issue and where there is not unanimity. So to put the question back to you, do you think that makes it more likely? If the answer is yes, then yes. But if you took the view possibly that it will simply entrench previously entrenched positions still further, you could take a view that what we need is statesman-like activity and diplomacy.
Fascinated to hear the thoughts of the former head of MI6, Sir Alex Younger, on the foreign policy challenges facing whoever wins tomorrow's election. Still to come tonight. President Biden vows to run for re-election, but questions persist over his fitness for office. And fresh excitement at Wimbledon as Team Murray-Raducanu enter the mixed doubles. All that and more straight after this short break. Welcome back. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in the White House this evening when President Biden comes face-to-face with senior figures in his Democratic Party to discuss the fallout from his disastrous debate performance last week. The president will have to marshal his thoughts better than he did then to fend off calls from inside and outside the party to step down as its election candidate. Tonight, he told his re-election team, "I am running. No one is pushing me out."
Tonight, Joe Biden was awarding posthumous medals honouring soldiers of America's past as the rumours continue to swirl about his future. His son, Hunter Biden, was there, now a frequent presence in campaign meetings.
With the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with,
Last week's calamitous performance in Atlanta was the stuff of presidential nightmares.
Thank you, President Biden.
But since this appearance, the White House has been forced to deny rumours he's considering standing aside in November's election. At today's press briefing, there was only one topic and one answer.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not.
Any discussions about the Vice President assuming his duties?
Absolutely not. The President is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race.
The explanations,
I would not call it an episode.
Some might say excuses.
There's a cold, there's a jet lag.
were offered with increasing impatience.
Like, help us understand.
Have you had a cold before?
I have been privileged and proud to serve as Vice President of the United States with Joe Biden as President of the United States.
The Republicans have sensed an opportunity. Today's attack ad seeks to posit the question, if not Joe, then who? Their answer, they hope, will scare wavering voters.
Everybody knows there's an age issue.
But more crucially, on cable television, the voices of dissent from within the Democratic Party are growing.
Is this an episode or is this a condition?
Biden is going to lose to Trump. I know that's difficult, but I think the damage has been done by that debate.
A new person who might excite all those double haters that there's another alternative out there and bring us together would give us a much better chance in the fall than we have right now.
The process for replacing Joe Biden isn't clear.
When do we wake up to the reality that this is not getting better?
James Zogby is a veteran Democratic Party member who's put forward a plan for a competitive process to select a successor.
What will happen if he doesn't is the drip, drip, drip will be deadly. There has not been a single day where the story about the election has not been his capacity.
While some are calling on Joe Biden to stand down, the White House is doubling down, insisting he will run. But his critics are warning if he doesn't make way for a younger candidate, his age could pave the way for a Trump second term. Dan Rivers, News at 10, Washington.
British tennis fans have been sad that Sir Andy Murray won't be signing off from Wimbledon in the singles. He will, though, be one half of a pairing, giving those fans something else to cheer about. He and Emma Raducanu will be partners in a British dream team in the mixed doubles. She's still in the singles, though. She won her second round match and made it look easy.
We knew this would be Andy Murray's last Wimbledon, but we didn't know how he'd say goodbye. And this morning, a surprise announcement that he's pairing up with Emma Raducanu for the mixed doubles. 3 years ago, they were filmed here practicing. Is this a glimpse of what we can expect from the British duo? Excitement about the partnership was already building as the news reached fans at the tournament earlier.
Andy Murray, well, I'm from Scotland. He's the king.
Really look forward to seeing him, and hopefully Emma can come back to her previous best self.
When Andy Murray was making his professional debut, Emma Raducanu was 3 years old. But it wasn't long before she picked up a racket, and then at the age of 18, she won the US Open in New York. The pair have followed each other's careers closely.
What she did in New York was very special.
And perhaps it was this interview that she gave 2 years ago that planted the thought in Murray's mind.
Your dreams double partner, you have said already, is? Andy Murray.
Murray's won the men's singles at Wimbledon twice, but after back surgery 11 days ago has decided he won't play solo this time. Instead, he's doubling up with his brother and now Emma. But the crowd here are still a bit stuck for a team name for the wildcards.
Ruddy? I thought Marrakesh got something.
Ruddy. I'm going with Ruddy.
Ruddy.
Yeah, cute.
Oh, that's
nice. Team Ruddy for the win.
The name might take a bit more work, but Raducanu's victory this afternoon has given fans hope this could be an ideal pairing for Murray's farewell. Ellie Pitt, News at 10.
Now, as the election campaign reaches its end, we're ending our Fight for 24 series by looking at what, if anything, it has achieved in addressing voters' concerns. What we found suggests apathy and anger. Basically, if there were a lack of enthusiasm party, it could be the clear winner. Here's Paul to take us through the findings.
Yes, in our final Fight for 24 report, we wanted to look back on whether this campaign has addressed voters' concerns and the apathy and anger we've encountered across the country. This analysis from the British Election Study shows how much has changed since the last election. So back in 2019, you can see here the top issue by far was Brexit, but going into this election, the top issues have totally transformed. The economy here in green, we've got immigration here in black, health here in purple, amongst other things. The striking thing we've kept encountering, though, wherever we've gone, is that voters seem especially uninspired and unimpressed with the party's ability to address address these concerns. And you can see that in this second graph. So look down here in blue at the number of people who think the Conservatives would deal with these issues well. Just 14% trust them on the economy, 5% immigration, 6% the NHS, and so on. Labour do score better here in red, so 26%, for example, trust them on the economy, 22% immigration, and 41% the NHS. But let me show you the real winner in all of this. The black bar is the percentage of people who think neither party will tackle the big issues. 60% don't trust either party on the economy. It's 74% for immigration and 54% on the NHS, and so on. On every measure, people lack faith. So has this campaign given them any confidence? Its red tower sits beneath a blue sky. But has Blackpool grown tired of its traditional colours? At this barbecue, we found something burning beneath the smell of burgers. A frustration with both Labour and the Conservatives, and a desire among some to rebel. Do you think so far politicians have addressed the big issues that you've got in this election?
No.
No.
It's horrible. It's horrible to watch, isn't it? I'm confused, depressed and embarrassed by the way this election has built up steam.
What's been the most embarrassing bit, do you think?
Rishi leaving France hits the mark for me.
The anger that we've got in terms of the Conservatives and Labour, it's just been back and forth, back and forth.
People are being really quiet about who they're going to vote for. They'll say, oh, I don't know, but they're angry at both. Yeah. They're really angry at Labour and they're really angry at the Conservatives.
The way it's going, it's going to end up being, why you pick it? You have two options. It's left or right.
See, I don't think that's true at all, because if enough people had the balls to go and vote for who they want to, it would make a difference.
Who would you vote for if you had to pick someone now, Adam?
Reform.
I'd probably vote Conservative. Okay. Still.
Oh, wow.
It's the first person I've heard say that in weeks. We're all so angry. We're like,
all know they're not going to get it.
Well, then don't you think you may be wasting your vote?
I think that...
No, you can't.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing.
It's a way of having a rebellion, isn't it?
I don't think it is.
Well, it's telling the other two, isn't it? It's telling the other two, that's what it is.
What people do know, wherever we've travelled, is that this election leaves them unenthused. Our data suggests few people expect the problems in their lives to improve.
But the overriding answer is that neither of the two major parties will handle those issues well. Now that's pretty devastating, going into election with low expectations, low confidence, and really a low sense of hope.
In Southport, the prevailing wind blows in Labour's direction, though this seat has been Tory and Lib Dem. But yet again, we were struck here by the way voters feel they've exhausted every option. Do you feel like the politicians have addressed the issues that you care about, Elaine?
No, not really. I think there's a lot of talk going on, but at the end of the day, it still leaves you feeling a bit, well, you know.
It'd be nice if they just weren't trying to score points off each other.
Exactly.
If they just told you what they were going to do rather than what they were not going to do.
It's a game to an awful lot of them, and as long as they win, it doesn't matter.
This is exactly what I feel. They just want to get in. They would just want to get their hand on this seat, and that's it.
So who is thinking of the broader issues for you? Who do you think you might vote for?
Well, I'm pretty sure I'll be voting for Lib Dem.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I voted Labour, have voted Labour.
Well, what did they do with Jeremy Corbyn? Where did he go?
Where did he go?
I mean, I were excited about Jeremy Corbyn. I'm a socialist, I'm not a capitalist. And these don't seem much different to the Tories.
I'm voting Labour purely and simply because we have to get rid of the Conservatives. God help the young people of today.
There should be a way to connect with our generation, because in reality we should really be voting. Like we're the ones that it's for, really. It's our future. Yeah.
Tens of millions of futures are at stake tomorrow. There are only a few hours left for the undecided to change tack before setting the country's course. Paul Brand, News at 10.
And that is it for tonight. Tom will be here for our election results programme at 10 to 10 tomorrow night. I'll see you the following morning for all the drama in Downing Street. In 8 hours' time, polling stations will be open. One more sleep and everyone gets the chance to give their verdict. At stake, the country's future. Who occupies that most famous of Georgian terraced houses? And which family will be living in the flat upstairs? A day of destiny awaits from all of us here on News at 10. Thanks for watching. Good night.